Man, it's so good just to worship the Lord and to celebrate Him and to acknowledge Him. And I just love it all weekend long. I've just heard the church, you just singing at the top of your lungs, all right? And I just love that because what you're saying is, Jesus, we're finding hope in you. We're finding healing in you. We're finding victory in you. And that's what that song is all about. It's saying, Jesus, I'm going to speak your name over the darkness around me. I'm going to speak your name into areas where we need healing. I'm going to speak your name over my family. So I pray that you will hold on to that and that you'll believe that. So why don't you pray with me? Jesus, we come before you. We thank you that we can come into your presence. We thank you that we can sing of your name, that we can speak your name over all areas of our life. And Jesus, I just pray right now that we would not just speak your name out loud, but we would believe your name deeply down into our heart. We love you, Lord, in your name. Amen. Amen. Well, how you guys doing today? Everybody good? It's good to see you guys. I hope you're doing well, and I want to welcome you here to our 11:30 service. If you're new with us or if you're watching online, man, I want to make sure you get connected. So if you're online, talk to a host. If you're new here with us in the auditorium, then I really encourage you to use that QR code in front of you or stop by the Connect wall on your way out, as we've got a gift for you that we would love to give you and just introduce ourselves to you, all right? And we're going to start, or I shouldn't say start, we're going to finish this series that we're in. We've been in a series for 5 weeks called Letters from My Future Self. And this series, what we've been doing is each week giving you a motto, a statement, or a word by which to live. And today, the word is finish. And with that idea of finish, I want to read just a few more thank you cards. And are you guys okay if I read a couple thank you cards? Thank you, Jay. I just want to remind you all, I preach better when you get louder, okay? So the level of the message is going to be based on you, all right? So is it okay if I read a few more thank you cards? Yeah, my people, thank you. All right. So again, remember the word finish. Here they are. Thank you, NordicTrack and Peloton. You should know where this is going already. Thank you, NordicTrack and Peloton, for helping me to get in shape for 1 month and then becoming a clothes rack for all of our dirty laundry. Thank you, EveryDollar.com, for helping me create a budget that I will never live by, right? Here's another one. Thank you, New Year's resolution, for your quick visit the first week of every year. And that's all it does. Thank you, Chip and Joanne Gaines, and your DIY shows, as they have given me confidence to start projects with zero ability to finish them. Are you with me on that one? You know what I'm saying? Some of you are with me. Guys, that's me, right? Because I love to start things. I absolutely love starting things. Like, you name it. Like, let's start it. Let's try it. Let's do it. We're in a construction phase right now at church. Timmy was telling you a little bit about that. I am so ready to knock down all the walls, right? Like people have said, Josh, I can't believe there's not a hole in that wall yet. I'm like, do I have permission? Because as soon as I have permission, I'll put a hole in something. I'll tear down a wall quick because I love to start. Finish? Well, that's a whole nother issue. Right? You know what I mean? Like how many of y'all would agree with me? You love to start things. Anybody a starter? Anybody here finishers? You love to finish things. Yeah, I don't get you. Okay? Like you start and finish, malarkey. And that's the proper word I'm using today, Tony, right? Like, you know what I'm saying though? Like I love to start. Finish, not so much. Allison, I'm thankful for your husband because I love to start and he has to clean up behind me and finish, right? I don't want to say I never finish, but especially when it's home projects. We bought a house about 10 years ago. And within a month, we knocked down a wall. We're like, man, let's open this up. So we knocked out a big wall and did all the work to finish it up except the trim work, because I hate trim work. And so still today, 9 years later, if you go to that part of our house, there's a piece of trim that you can tell doesn't match and doesn't fit. It's not right. And I have zero intention of ever fixing it. Now, I guess if we put the house on the market someday in our life, maybe I'll fix the trim work then. But until then, I'm good, right? I love to start. Finish? Not, when it matters. And there's some areas in life that matters, right? Like, let's be honest, with my trim work on my house, that doesn't matter. At least to me. It will to the next owner if I ever sell it. But there are areas of our life, it matters, that we have to finish. Think about your marriage. When it comes to your marriage, it's not just about starting a marriage. It's about finishing. It's about doing that marriage for the rest of your life. It's finishing. When you think about raising your kids, you don't just have kids and then like, well, whatever happens next, fine. No, we finish that task. And that task is really never finished, right? But I want to keep working at it. I want to keep finishing. When it comes to life, I want to finish. When it comes to the end of my life, I want to finish well. When it comes to faith, I don't want to just start faith. I want to finish my faith. I want to finish well. So today, I really want to challenge us to finish well in the areas of life and of faith. I want us to look at our lives and say, man, when it comes to my life, when it comes to my faith walk, when it comes to my relationship with Jesus, I want to finish well. But in order to finish well, you have to start, right? Like you have to start that faith walk. And I know in a room this size with this many people that there's some of us that haven't started that faith walk yet. That maybe you're brand new to Christ, brand new to church, brand new to this investigating what a relationship with Jesus looks like. I want you to know you're in the right place. It's a perfect place to investigate it. But my prayer is that you won't just seek it out, but you'll actually start it. Some of you have been maybe going to church for 10, 15, 20 years, but you still haven't started a relationship with Jesus. My prayer is today that you'll start. Because I want you to finish well, but the only way to finish well is to start now. And that's what we see when we look at the book of Ecclesiastes. There was a guy named Solomon. He wrote this book. We've been studying it for the last 5 weeks. And he comes to the end of his book. And the first thing he says in the end, like the last chapter, is he says, you got to start now. Here it is. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 12. It says, don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor him in your youth before you grow old and say, life is not pleasant anymore. That he's saying, while you are young, remember, while you are young, start that walk with Christ. Let me keep going. Remember him before the light and the sun and the moon and the star is dim in your old eyes and the rain clouds continually darken the sky. Remember him before your legs, the guards of your house, start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men start to stoop. Remember him before before your teeth, your few remaining servants stop grinding, and before your eyes, the women looking through the windows see dimly. Remember him before the door to life's opportunities is closed and the sound of work fades. Remember him before you become fearful of falling and worry about the dangers in the streets. Remember him before you near the grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator now. Remember your Creator now, while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. So my prayer is that we'll take this to heart, that those of you who maybe don't have a relationship with Jesus yet, that you'll remember him today and that you'll start now. I look throughout the room, I see a bunch of young people. I see a bunch of young adults and teenagers. And my prayer is that you'll learn from Solomon, because he was at the end of his life. And as he was looking back and he was looking through his regrets, he was like, man, I wish I would have remembered God when I was young. Man, I wish I would have honored God when I was young. I wish I would have remembered him as my creator when I was young. So he's given all of those who are young here a challenge to start now. But I also want to remind us, because I know there's those of you in the room who are closer to my age, that no matter how old you are right now, you are younger than your future self, right? Like, I'm younger right now than I will be in 5 minutes, in 10 minutes, when this day ends. So therefore, remember Christ now. Start now. So I can say this to every one of us in the room. If you don't have a relationship with Christ, start one now. And why don't we? Why don't we start a relationship with Christ? I really think it's because we have some fears in our life. We have some fears of starting that relationship. I think for some of us, that fear is, well, I have a fear of missing out. Like, if I start a relationship with Christ, I'm going to miss out on some of the things that I want to do. That I'm going to miss out on the party, and I'm going to miss out on the lifestyle. I'm going to miss out on things that I want to be a part of. I'll never forget the first person I ever shared my faith with. I just graduated high school, and he had just graduated high school. He's my best friend. His name was Bobby. And I had only been walking with Jesus for a couple months. And one day we were at his house, and he said, man, Fink, something's changed in your life. Like, man, you are nothing like the guy I remember. And I thought it was a compliment, right? And I was like, yeah, man, I met Christ. That I started going to church, and I met Jesus, and I gave him my life. And so the partying, the alcohol, the things we were doing, I don't want to do anymore. I'm not going to do those anymore. And I said, Bobby, I want you to find what I found. Man, I'd love for you to surrender to Jesus. I'd love for you to come to church with me. Would you consider doing that? And he said, no way. He said, yeah, I've seen your changes. I don't like them. He goes, that might be good for you, but I enjoy the partying. I enjoy the alcohol. I enjoy the things that we used to do together, and I'm not willing to give that up. He said, maybe one day when I get out of college, then I will, and then maybe we can talk about Jesus then. He had this fear of missing out on something. Unfortunately, I never got to talk about Jesus with Bobby again, because within about a year, he died in an auto accident. So the first person I shared my faith with was also the first person I ever did a funeral for. And it breaks my heart because he missed out. But what he missed out on was not what he missed out on was not what he thought it was. What he missed out on was a life with Jesus, because he said, I want the bottle, I want the alcohol, I want the party scene. And let me just say this, let me make sure everybody's very clear on this. A life with Jesus is way more intoxicating than a bottle ever will be. Ever will be. An adventure with Jesus is way more exhilarating than a life without him. Don't be afraid of what you might miss out on. Recognize what you have in front of you and start now. Or maybe it's this. Maybe it's like, well, I'm afraid I'm not ready. I'm afraid that I'm not good enough. I'm afraid that I don't know enough. And so I'm not ready to start a relationship with Jesus yet, because there's so much more I got to learn, and there's so much more I got to get right in my life. Maybe one day. Listen. No, the right time to start a relationship with Jesus is right now. You're never going to know enough. I can just promise you that right now. You're never going to know enough about Jesus. You're never going to fully know Jesus, okay? It's impossible. Let me illustrate it this way. How many of y'all been married 20 plus years? Anybody married 20 plus years? All right. First of all, congrats. All right. Very well. But let me just say this. You have been married to your spouse for 20 plus years. You still don't fully understand your spouse. Right? Like you know them a whole lot better than you used to, but you never fully understand. I've been married to Krista for 32 years. I love her like crazy. I don't have her figured out, and I never will. How much more is Jesus like that? That we'll never fully understand everything about him because he is God. But I know enough to say, I want to walk into that love relationship. Just like when you first walk into marriage, you don't totally understand marriage, but you go, I want to walk into that love relationship. And it's the same with Jesus. Or again, some of it, that fear is, well, I don't know enough, but I'm also not good enough. Listen, you're never going to be good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. All right? It's not like I can get my life figured out and my life all put together and then say, I'm ready for Jesus. That's not how it works. We don't get healthy so you can go visit the doctor. You go visit the doctor so you can get healthy. And Jesus is the greatest physician ever. So just go to him. Start. Well, but I'm also afraid if I start a relationship with him, I might mess up down the road. I might make some mistakes. I might fall into sin. I might veer off path. You will. That's a guarantee. Because none of us are perfect. It's not like you enter into a relationship with Jesus and immediately you're perfect. No. You're still going to sin. I'm still going to sin. We're still going to make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect until the day we get to heaven. Yet the difference is with a relationship with Jesus, as I'm walking, when I make a mistake, when I veer off path a little bit, when I sin, I get tripped up, I fall down. I don't fall backwards. I fall forward into the grace of Jesus. And with the grace of Jesus, he picks us up and speaks truth into our life in that moment and says, now this is how you follow me. Now get back on the path and let's keep moving forward. Let's keep moving forward. So a simple challenge, a strong challenge, a big challenge is if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, start now. Don't wait. Start now, and then finish well. Now, again, you can't finish well if you don't start, but once you've started that relationship, well, then finish well. Get to the end of your life where you can feel good about the way you've lived, where others can say good about the way you've lived, so that Jesus can say, well done, finish well. And the way we finish well is we go back to that text and we see what Solomon said. He said, here now is my final conclusion. Now remember that he's at the end of his chapter or the end of his book, and he says, remember God. Start now. Remember your Creator and fear him. He says, fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. That if you want to finish well, there's two things right there that tells us how to do it. Fear God and keep his commands. It starts with just this idea of fearing God. And I know that might sound a little weird because you're just like, man, I'm supposed to start a relationship with God, yet I'm supposed to fear him? Yes. See, that should come natural, that we think that way with people in positions of authority. Like it should come natural that when we think about our parents, there's a recognition and there's a respect. When we think about our teachers, our coaches, our bosses, there's a recognition, there's a respect. When we think about government officials, there should be a recognition and respect, which takes us to God. We think about God, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. There should be recognition and respect. That's what fear of God means, is we recognize and we respect. But the reality is, because we've lost the fear of God, it affects everything that we do. This is what I believe, and I'm pretty confident in this. The biggest issue facing us today, the greatest issue we have in our culture, in our country, in the entire world, is we've lost a fear of God. Amen? That we've lost the fear of God because we've forgotten who he is. We've forgotten to recognize who he is. We've forgotten to respect him. And I know there's some big issues in the world. I know there's some big things going on between some ideologies, some thought processes, from sin issues, from decisions people have made, even in natural disasters. Like, there's some big issues, I get it. But I think the number one issue facing us all is we've forgotten how to fear God. Because if we understand the fear of God, if we recognize who he is and respect him, it will domino effect into every other area of our life. When we don't fear God and respect him, well, we don't respect authorities in our life. We don't respect parents in our life. We don't respect leaders in our life. Because if we don't respect God, why would we respect anybody else? We got to get back to this idea of recognizing who God is. The creator, the leader, the Holy One, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. And respect him. And respect is seen in obedience. It's the reason I can go back to that verse. It read like this. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey his commands. For this is everyone's duty, that I recognize him, I respect him. That means fear of God. And then I just obey him because that's my duty. That's what I'm called to do. And then look at this next part. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. I don't know about you, but I don't really like that verse. Because that's a scary verse, isn't it? I mean, can we be honest about that? That's a scary verse. That we will be judged for everything we do, including every secret thing. For every secret thing that happens in here. For every secret thing that happens in here. For every secret thing that happens through these, through my decisions, through my life, I'm going to be held accountable for that. Man, that's scary. And so because of that, I want to do everything I can to set myself up when I'm being judged so that I'm not judged in fear, but I'm judged in grace. Part of that is I'm going to obey. I just want to obey him. That I want to walk with him. And obedience is a good thing. 1 John chapter 5 says this way. Loving God means keeping his commands. And his commands are not burdensome. James, it was the half-brother of Jesus, he said, but don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Joshua said, study the book of instruction continually. Meditate on it day and night so that you'll be sure to obey everything written in it. That each one of these writers, they're saying, listen, the commands of the Lord are good. And they bring good into our life. When I follow the commands of the Lord, then I can have more confidence of what the Lord sees me doing secretly, privately, and publicly. There's another verse. I want to read it to you. It's a long verse, but it's worth it. It says, this command I'm giving you today is not too difficult for you, and it's not beyond your reach. It's not kept in heaven so distant that you must ask, who will go up to heaven and bring it down so we can hear it and obey? It is not kept beyond the sea so far away that you must ask, who will cross the sea and bring it to us so we can hear it and obey? No, the message is very close at hand. It is on your lips and in your heart so that you can obey it. Now listen, today I'm giving you a choice between life and death, between prosperity and disaster. Like, I want you to hear that. Like I can picture Moses saying this to the Israelites. And in the same way he said it to them, I want to say to you that today we have a choice between life and death, prosperity and disaster. And here it is. For I command you this day to love the Lord your God and keep his commands and decrees and regulations by walking in his ways, by being obedient. If you do this, you will live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you. That if I simply walk in obedience, God will bring a blessing. So I want to challenge you today, finish well. And finish well by being obedient to God. By saying, God, I'm going to fear you. I'm going to recognize you. And as an act of respect, I'm just going to do what you say that you want me to do. I'm not going to live by my wants or my ideologies or my practices. I'm going to live by your word. I'm going to walk in obedience. Because by doing so, it'll help me to finish well. And I know that if I walk in obedience to God, that this is what Solomon is saying, this is what the rest of the word says, that when I walk in obedience to God, what it's going to do is help me live my life. And it's going to position me where at the end of my life, I'm able to say, as the Apostle Paul did, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. And I have remained faithful. Guys, I can just tell you honestly, when I come to the end of my life, I want to be able to look at the church. I want to be able to look at my wife. I want to be able to look at my kids and my grandkids. And I want to have confidence to be able to say, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. And I have remained faithful. And I want to be able to say that because here's what I believe. If I can say that, then I'm also confident that when I cross over from this life to next, what I'm going to hear Jesus say is, come to my right side. To come to this side. I've prepared a place for you in heaven. I want to say to you, well done, good and faithful servant. And that's what I want to hear. I want to hear the words of Jesus say, come to my right. Come into the place I've prepared. Well done, good and faithful servant. And I believe that will happen for this reason. First, because I started a relationship with Jesus. Because of that starting of that relationship with Jesus, when I stand before him and my sins are put on display and my secret thoughts are put on display and what I've done has been put on display, and as embarrassing as that might be, Jesus is going to look at the Father and say, his sins are covered by my blood. They are atoned for. He gets to come in, Dad. And that's all going to happen because of his amazing grace and the fact that I started a relationship with him. It starts in the relationship, and then it is finished well through obedience. And I believe I'll get to that point in my life. I'm going to be able to look back at my younger self, and I'm going to be able to say, you lived these mottos out. And I don't think at that point I'll be sending a letter to my younger self. But I wonder if I would have sent a thank you card. A thank you card that would have said something like, thank you, younger self, for chasing daylight. Thank you, younger self, for seeing the beauty and hearing the story and making the most of every opportunity by doing something that mattered. Thank you, younger self, by being better together. Thank you, younger self, for finding community, for not doing life alone, and for propelling our life through Christ. Thank you, younger self, for enjoying dessert. Thank you, younger self, for not diving in to ungodly cravings, but being content and enjoying the sweet things that God has given. Thank you, younger self, for sharpening the axe. Thank you, younger self, for challenging yourself to grow, for starting down the right path, for getting better. And thank you, younger self, for finishing well by fearing God and obeying Him. That's what I want to be able to say at the end of my life to my younger self. That'll happen when you start now. And so for some of you in the room, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, then I'm going to challenge you right now. Start now. And in a bold way, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to just challenge you, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, to come up front. I'm going to encourage you to go to this corner over here, and we're going to have some prayer counselors there. And we're going to be willing to pray with you and just help you start that relationship. Whitney, if you don't mind, if you'd go to that corner, I want to make sure somebody's there. Jody, if you go over there to this corner, I want people there who are willing to pray with you, because if you've never started a relationship with Jesus, then today I want you to come up front to that prayer corner, and I want you to pray to receive Christ as your Savior. I want you to pray and to say that I'm accepting your love and I'm acknowledging your lordship. Maybe today you come up to this front corner, and that's the reason I say this. I'm pleading with you that if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, that you start now. This corner over here to pray to receive Christ. This corner over here to say, I'm going to take the step of baptism. That maybe you've never taken that step of baptism. Listen, baptism is a beautiful display of what you have started. Because when you are baptized, what you're doing is you're going down in the water. It's like dying to yourself, and you're raised in the newness of life. You're starting anew. And so far, every service this weekend at The Rock at our Conway campus, somebody who wasn't planning on getting baptized got up and went and got baptized, because they said, today is day one. I'm starting a relationship. If that's you, I want to encourage you, start now. So why don't you do me a favor? Let's all stand together. And as I continue to talk, if you're ready to make that decision, just do it. Just go. Even while I'm talking, you go up to this corner for baptism. You go to that corner to pray with somebody to respond to Christ. Others of you are here. Many of you, you have a relationship with Jesus. It started, but maybe you've gotten off track. Maybe you've stumbled a little bit. Maybe you realize there's some areas in your life you're not respecting Him and recognizing Him. Maybe you understand there's some areas in your life where you're not walking in obedience. Start now. Now's the time. Make a change right now and start now so that you can finish well. Finish well. To finish well, there has to be a day that it starts. There has to be a day where it starts. Let's spend some time responding. They're ready to pray with you. They're ready to help you with baptism.